What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 111 of The Shift. It is the official World 2026 World Baseball Classic final, and for the most part, tournament overall recap from the game that happened last night. Wanted to do this as soon as I could. Was working today, so I didn't get the opportunity to, but getting the opportunity to do it now. So it's been, almost 24 hours since the game has ended. And boy, I'll be honest with you. Look, I live in the States, so I was rooting for the U.S. Maybe that's something I'll get to as well. There's a whole lot to get into on today's WBC reaction show. And, rooted for the U.S., but man, that was so awesome to see how Venezuela, the people that were there, supporting Venezuela, the players, and just their overall reaction from people that have come from Venezuela, that they reacted to their championship win. It was pretty awesome to watch. I'm really happy for Venezuela. A little bum that the U.S. lost. Was looking forward to hoping that the U.S. could win this tournament as an American. But I mean, honestly, you're just hoping for the best result, which is really, as a baseball fan, you want to have this tournament be awesome overall and help grow the game, which I think check both of those boxes off. That's a big thing I want to get into in today's show as well, on like what this does for baseball, and talking about a lot. It's been talked about a lot about what this is doing for the popularity of the sport. I turned on First Take today, and this morning, and that's the first thing they were talking about. I watch, First Things First from FS1 from time to time. And, the day after the Dominican game between the U.S. and Dominican, that was the first thing that they opened with and talked about. So definitely, I would say, like, a good tournament overall for baseball. I mean, I really do think that it does good things for baseball. And maybe does this change my mind at the beginning of, right before, when I did my preview, I talked about, well, maybe we should just go to the Olympics anyway. And maybe I'm changing my tune on that. So stay tuned for that. It's the last thing I'm going to want to talk about. But just to start with the final, I mean, man, this game, let's be real. This game was all about the stacked U.S. lineup that honestly didn't live up to what they should have been doing, which is what we saw in those first few exhibition games against like the Giants and the Rockies. I believe the other game was the Rockies. They scored a combined total of 29 runs in those couple of games. And you're thinking, like, okay, this lineup's just going to slug their way through, even without, like, Scooble maybe making that one less start, which he did. He only made that one start and ends up going back to Tigers camp. And you're thinking the U.S. lineup's going to be a force. And let's be real, man, they really weren't that much of a force this tournament. They weren't. And I know the Dominican backs were quiet too, the game that they won, but the U.S. lineup that is stacked from top to bottom, and not just the lineup, on their bench, you got guys like PCA. You interchange with some of these guys with like PCA and Buxton and Gunner and Bregman and PCA and whomever else. Like, you got these guys on your bench. They're just, it's the all-stars of all-stars, man. It's like between them and Dominican Republic, it was a pick 'em when you were looking at lineups. But this is really all about, heading into this tournament, about the U.S. lineup, and they didn't do that against Venezuela. And that was, to me, the biggest thing to take away from the game, is that the lineup, it was a little too late. I mean, Bryce Harper hits a 2-run home run, and that was, honestly, it was still a great home run, and I think will be, it'll be remembered in WBC history. But at the same time, it's not going to be remembered as much now because, the next inning, Eugenio Suarez hits an RBI double to give the ultimate, go ahead run for Team Venezuela. And, Team Venezuela just in this game got the hits when they needed them to. Michael Garcia had the run batted in. Eugenio Suarez, like I said, in the ninth inning. Wilyer Abreu has been nails for them with big time home runs. Had one also in the lead up to the final. had the big one against I think it was against Japan, right? That he hit that big home run. And Willie Abreu, another clutch home run that gave them the 2-1 lead, and then Eugenio Suarez with the RBI double to give them the 3-2 win. But that's what it was about. Venezuela getting the bigger hits, throughout the game when they needed them. Neither teams had much offense at all. When you're looking at guys in the USA lineup that you're looking for to have big games, Aaron Judge was 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Kyle Schwarber, the cleanup hitter, was 0 for 3 did have a walk, but had 3 strikeouts. It was really everybody but Bryce Harper. Bryce Trang had a hit. And that was it. It was Bryce and Harper. It was the two Bryces. Bryce Terang, who spells his name with an I in the middle, and Bryce Harper, who spells it the normal way with a Y. So, that's really what the game came down to, was that the U.S. not getting the hits and they weren't facing like the best pitching. Eduardo Rodriguez, let's be real, man. A couple of years back, were his formative years. He's not been the same pitcher in recent years, and there's been some different reasons why. But Eduardo Rodriguez looked great, and then they went to their bullpen that were Bizardo, Buto, Angel Zerpa, Andres Machado, and Daniel Palencia. Were just nails in this game for them. They were just absolute nails and have been all tournament. And that's really what it came down to, was Venezuela getting the key hits when they needed them to, and their bullpen doing the job that they needed to do. But again, and this hits pretty it made sense when I was sitting there watching this. This is me being a Philadelphia fan as well, as you can see in the back. It felt like, and maybe this is only a me thing, because here in Philadelphia, watch the team closely, different than other people might watch from afar. Felt like I was watching a Phillies game, in a high pressure, tight game. The Phillies bats in recent years have tensed up and been a big reason why they have not advanced in the playoffs. And the U.S. team, honestly, and it wasn't just this game, it was really the whole tournament. Even games that were they did score a lot, still felt like the U.S. team is just something's off about them. Going back to the Italy game, even where they end up scoring 6 runs in the game, and they end up almost coming back with a PCA home run. Like, they almost came back, but it was just too little, too late. Almost felt like the same thing, almost the entire tournament, and then especially in the final. And then they're lucky that in the semifinal against Dominican Republic, Paul Skeens has a really good start, and the bullpen was able to to close the door. And look, we can also sit here and talk about the Mason Miller thing, and the Padres only wanted him to be in the game if they have the lead. I'm totally is what it is, man. That's just how the WBC is. We can debate whether there are things that need to change with things that come with that, and that's fine. We can have that conversation. But look, man, again, I look at the U.S. lineup and I'm like, come on, man, against that pitching, against Eduardo Rodriguez, and look, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Eduardo Rodriguez, Bizarro, Buto, Zerpa, Machado, or Palencia. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any of those guys. When you have a lineup that consists of Bobby Witt Jr., who will win an MVP at some point, he will win multiple MVPs, and he's going to be a great player for years to come. Bryce Harper did his thing. And I'm just naming these names just to prove a point. Like Aaron Judge. We know Aaron Judge. He's the modern day Barry Bonds right now. Kyle Schwarber, coming off one of the best years I've ever seen by a Philly in recent memory. Alex Bregman. Bregman's been one of the premier third basemen in baseball. Gunnar comes in the game. Roman, Will Smith. Multiple World Series winner. He's on his way to a really, really great career. Bryce Terang, one of the more underrated players in baseball. Byron Buxton, able to stay healthy and finally have a really good year. PCA, who is one of the future best players in baseball. And I know Nolan McClain didn't have the best start, but again, the bullpen did their job. Garrett Whitlock, in the end, that doesn't get the job done for him. But It's really what it came down to, man. I mean, that's my number one thing from the game was it comes down to the U.S. offense. That's what it's really about, man. That is what it's really, really about. It was about this offense, and that's what it was, man. But I mean, you got to give credit. Here's my thing. Maybe I'm saying a lot here about the U.S. team, and um, but you got to give credit to Venezuela. I mean, Michael Garcia ends up being all the WBC MVP, had a monster tournament, monster hits when they needed him to. The Royals were all in this tournament. Eugenio Suarez, who has hit some big home runs in his career, and he hits the big RBI double to give them the lead. Well, you're Abreu again. Here's my thing about Venezuela too is that maybe I heard it Buster Olney say it on Baseball Tonight's podcast, but said their lineup's almost underrated. I would almost kind of agree. I mean, Michael Garcia, kind of an up-and-coming player, still a little bit. Arias, who I think's a little overrated, but had a really good tournament. He's on the all WBC tournament team we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. I mean, Acuna, it's been unfortunate because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. But hopefully we're getting back to Acuna being the Acuna of a couple of years ago when he did the 40-70. Like Glaber, Ezekiel Tovar, Wilyer Abreu, Salvador Perez. Yeah, Salvi's a little on the older side now, obviously. Jackson Churio, meshed in with a lot of those the young players in baseball. Wilyer Abreu, the health has been a thing with him, but he's a really good player. Tovar, too, he's on the Rockies, so it's kind of tough for him. Glaber, who, has had some bounce back seasons in recent years. I guess, I don't know if they were underrated, but they have a really good lineup still, though. A really good lineup. I mean, it was about the U.S., though, being able to hit the Venezuelan pitching. And you were going to give the U.S. the advantage because of Venezuelan pitching. Maybe if Venezuela had somebody like Jesus Luzardo going into this game, like, oh, this might be tougher than we think. And it ended up didn't even matter. Eduardo Rodriguez was really good in this game. Only allowed one walk through 4 1/3 and had 4 strikeouts, only 1 hit. I mean, he did his job. And, the Venezuelan bullpen really did their job. So you got to really give Venezuela their credit. I mean, they were clutch when they needed to be clutch. And, and they obviously had the crowd support there as well. It was really awesome to see how many Venezuelan people and fans showed up for this game. It's awesome to have these Latin countries in this tournament because, look, let's be real. Love to have USA in the tournament. This tournament is not what it is without the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Mexico. Like it's not what it is without these. I want to shout out to Japan, by the way. Japan made the semifinals, didn't win. Venezuela takes them out and won the tournament last time. Maybe it's a little different this time around. Sasaki's able to pitch Otani, stuff like that. But either way, you got to give Venezuela their credit because they were clutch that game and they were clutch in the final. So it was Venezuela, man. Big props to Venezuela. That was man. Eugenio Suarez did an interview after with Ken Rosenthal, and what really made me really happy for Venezuela, just from a perspective of just sitting back and being a baseball fan, was just how Eugenio Suarez for, a couple minutes there was talking about how much passion that they play for their country. And it's about the name of the country on the front, not the name of the last name on the back. You hear that a lot with how teams win championships in general. But when it comes down to these, the Olympics and the WBC, it's so important, man. It's so important. And it really, really made me watch what Eugenio Suarez, had to say in that interview. And that really made me happy. I love the exuberance and the emotional things that Eugenio had to say. That really, I sat back and I was like, man, I'm happy for Venezuela. And it almost felt like they deserved it more. After that, after watching that, it's like, I think they deserve it more than we do in America. Because to be real, man, and that's another thing I want to get to, and I'm going to go off on a tangent here just because it's on my mind. Why are we not? Maybe this is on. I don't know if this is on the tournament. I don't know if this is on me. I don't know if I'm not looking at this the right way. I don't know who this is on, but I would like you to tell me. I see way too many people on social media, and like maybe baseball content creators that I follow or baseball people in general, whomever, that like, I don't know, the two people that have like kind of stood out to me, definitely Jared Carabas, who I've liked a lot of Carabas's work in the past, but they're like tweeting out like, oh, big home run for Willie Abreu. And I know he's a Red Sox fan too. That's wrong person to bring up. But it's almost like there's a lot of American people I follow on Twitter that were like watching this like they're just a neutral fan. Like, why aren't we rooting for Team USA? I'm not saying those guys are not rooting for Team USA. And maybe it's just the people that I follow, but I don't quite understand the like, what watching Team USA hockey versus Canada, like I wanted the US to win so bad, man. Going back to 2010 when Crosby scored the golden goal, that was heartbreak. I hated it. I hate Canada. I don't hate Canada, but I hate Canada in terms of the Olympics, and that's our rival. And I know that Venezuela is not necessarily our rival, but like I felt like following this tournament, especially like following this game, where, and again, it might be some of the people I follow, but not enough like rooting and cheering on USA. Like we want USA to win so bad. Why do we not like, and maybe we need to do better on this in future WBCs, or unless it goes to the Olympics, either way, like, why are we not like living in like, I don't know, maybe because I found myself, I'm pumped when Bryce hit that home run. I was pumped. Like, let's go. Like, not just pumped because it's a great game, pumped because I'm rooting for the U.S. to win. I want them to win the gold medal. Like, that's what, and I think that's what's going to help the WBC continue to grow, is that like, it's got to mean something, man, to the fans, to the players. It's got to mean something. The U.S. hockey team, U.S. men's hockey team, and the women's team too, but the women's team wins all the time. I'm highlighting the men's hockey team. When the men's hockey team wins for the first time since 1980, the gold medal, it's like ginormous. It's huge. It's like winning the Stanley Cup or even more. And I'd say the WBC has to be more than the World Series. Now, that's a big talking point about this too. Judge talking about it, and Derek Jeter, talking about it as well. I don't know. Like, it just needs to be, I think like that's the next step. One of the next steps for WBC is, I'm not saying that we have to be like the Dominican Republic or Venezuela or Puerto Rico or any of the Latin countries and be like going like insane after every hit and like jumping over the dugout and acting like we just won the World Series every single time. I'm not saying that. But I don't know. There needs to be more like emotion and rooting for the USA, and like more disappointment for them losing, because that's the next step. I think that's one of the next steps for us to continue to, grow this tournament. I just really think it does. I think it is. I'm sitting there, man. I want to see the U.S. win. And I'm like, yeah or no in front of my TV. Like I am. So that's, I don't know. Maybe I'm out of pocket on that. Maybe it's just like, Fran, just freaking enjoy the tournament, which I did. I 1,000% enjoy the tournament, which is what I want to get to next about. By the way, Michael Garcia, I already mentioned it, wins WBC MVP. I just want to make sure I mention that again in the first block of what I wanted to talk about. But shout out to Michael Garcia for winning WBC MVP. Crazy, really good tournament, obviously, by winning the tournament's MVP. I think Ohtani won last time. Now it's Michael Garcia. But which was going to lead me to my next, thought here, just on the tournament overall. It was an amazing tournament. It was awesome. And we're going to get into here, what this means for baseball. Do you still want the Olympics or stick with the WBC? I think it's, how this tournament has turned out. It's been amazing. It was this is the best WBC so far, I would say, without a doubt. I thought the last one was good too, especially the ending with Ohtani striking out Trout. But this time around, man, it was so great. The Dominican Republic, from start to finish, unfortunately, it didn't end the way they wanted to. And I don't think it ended the way I don't think any baseball fan watching wanted it to end the way that it did, obviously, with Geraldo Perdomo taking that, what was clearly a half a foot below the zone, a strike three to end that game. but it is what it is. Hopefully, we'll get ABS or robots next time around for the WBC. We'll see how it goes with Major League Baseball in the next couple of years. But Dominican Republic from start to finish, Junior Caminero, I mean, I felt like, his stardom is boosted up. He's what, 21, 22 years old, had 45 homers last year. Um, he's already a star. And this only raises his profile up a little more. Maybe doesn't help that he's on the Rays, and the Rays haven't been all that great the last couple of years, but they're like usually at worst they're like mediocre. So we'll see. Maybe the Rays are always kind of a you never know type of thing either. But Caminero being a Ray kind of doesn't help. But still, like this tournament was big for him. Dominican Republic though, from top to bottom, the emotion that they displayed, how good their lineup was throughout this tournament, how good they were from Vladdy to Machado to Caminero, like I mentioned. I mean, Soto. They were stacked throughout, and their lineup really, lived up to it. Even Austin Wells hitting a mercy rule home run to get to the semifinals. So against Korea, I mean, Dominican Republic was really fun. They were a big part of why this tournament was so good. Obviously, the Team Italy story. Now, there's all the talk about they're a fake Italian team, and I'm not going to necessarily sit here and disagree with that. But the way the WBC is set up, man, I mean, it just kind of is what it is with some of these countries. You'll have Harrison Bader playing for Israel. You'll have Nolan Arenado playing for Team Puerto Rico, which I still think is kind of weird, but it is what it is. Vinny Pasquantino playing for Team Italy. Aaron Nola playing for Team Italy. But Team Italy, man, that was awesome. For them to get all the way to the semifinal, they were a great story. Regardless, whatever you think about Team Italy, that was an awesome thing to watch for them to get all the way to the semifinal. And the story that they were beat Team USA, obviously, in the pool play. And, Vinny Pasquantino, like Junior Caminero, and maybe, again, similar thing being on the Royals. But the Royals, I think, might be a team to watch this year, coming off a down year a year before where they made the playoffs and got to the divisional round. But Pasquantino, stardom, rises here after this tournament. Hopefully maybe future Philly, Dante Nori, one of their top prospects, had a really good tournament. But Team Italy, clearly, and Jack Caglione, too, another Royal and prospect. I mean, he was awesome. Team Italy was an awesome story with the espresso thing. It was fantastic. So Team Italy was a really awesome, fun part of this tournament. Venezuela, like I already talked about here for like half of the show so far. I mean, Venezuela, the way they won it for their country, the emotion, man. Like even going back to Chinese Taipei, man, where they were like, or Taiwan, where they're crying after they barely avoid elimination against Korea. Like it's great. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to see, that these players care. I mean, it goes hand in hand. I mean, the fans got to care at the end of the day, but you want to see these players care, and even if it's just even if it's not one of the top teams that's loaded, Taiwan's not loaded. So it was, it's great to see these players and these teams showing the emotion that they showed. I mean, you got Kike Hernandez talking about this thing's bigger than the World Series. And the guy's played in 5? And he's won 3. So, I mean, that means a lot. Whether you agree or disagree with it, I think it's great for the tournament. The fact that people are talking about how much it means. I think that's where, like, I think that's also where, I know going off on a lot of tangents on the show, but I think there's these tangents are, there's points to make. I think some people are missing the point, maybe with like, oh, it's bigger than the World Series, or it's big. No, it's not. It's the WBC. I think the point is that it matters, and that's been the talk about it, right? It's been talk about the tournament, especially like trying to maybe get it to the Olympics instead. I think the great thing is that we're talking about it matters. Like you can sit there and get mad about what Kike said, or mad about what Judge said, or mad about what Jeter said. And I think the fact is there's conversation about, like, this thing matters. This thing matters. And even if you want to try to debate it as a fan, like, I mean, that's how these players feel. And if these players are talking about it mattering and how, great the tournament is, that's only going to help it grow. And that's only going to help fans really get into it. And that's what it's about. That's what it's about, man. That's what it's really all about. So the emotion, I mean, even though we don't love it, I mean, it was kind of a bleep show. The Team USA drama definitely added to, the outcome of this tournament, and it being just kind of, it had everything. It had the crazy storylines. Team USA drama where DeRozan doesn't know that they didn't quite necessarily get in the quarterfinals yet. And, them a couple players slugging beers in the locker room afterwards. Team USA drama, not great, but also it was, I think it would probably kind of good for the overall tournament. Maybe bad for Americans, but maybe I'm going the other way on this. But like, maybe it's good for the tournament. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe it adds to the content that you get from the WBC. And yeah, man, great tournament overall. And you got really good games, by the way. I mean, the US versus the DR in the semifinals. The final, Venezuela beating Italy, Venezuela when they beat Japan in the quarterfinals, Puerto Rico and Italy in the quarterfinals. There were a lot of I thought really good games too, which matters as well. Like, it doesn't just matter talking about, the emotion, everything like that. Like, the how good the games are as well is also important, because you don't want to see blowouts left and right. Okay, yeah, DR beats Korea 10-0, but you want, especially when there's kind of a, shift in the balance comparison to between some of these teams. Like, again, like, I didn't do a dark horse for this tournament because I didn't think it was worth it, but maybe I was wrong. I mean, Venezuela is still in my top 5, but like, Italy ends up making the quarterfinals. Like, I did not think they were in my top 5, and I didn't think there was a team worth doing a dark horse on. So like that's just really good for the tournament. The competition, even in the US only beat Canada 5-3. Even though it wasn't like a great game, but still, it was close though. So, man, I thought the tournament was great, man. I'm like, this was a great tournament. It was, and I really do think that this could, this is, I think it's the one thing we can all agree on, and we'll talk about what it means for baseball. We can all agree that it's good for baseball. At the end of the day, it's good for baseball. Wanted to mention the All World Baseball Classic team before I talk about the Olympics or just keeping the WBC. This was the 2026 All World Baseball Classic team. Austin Wells was the catcher, who had the mercy rule home run against Korea. Luis Ariz, like I mentioned, hit 308, had 4 doubles, had OPS over 1,000. Bryce Terang for Team US had a really big tournament. There was a lot of questions on like why Gunnar wasn't starting over him, and but he silenced some of those critics. Bryce had a really good tournament. Michael Garcia was the MVP. Ends up with a 385 average. Had a couple of doubles, 1 home run, 7 RBI, 5 runs, 3 stolen bases, and an OPS of 970. Ezequiel Tovar for Venezuela once again had a big tournament, hit 471, had an 1,147 OPS. Roman Anthony, 920 OPS, had a couple of home runs, had a big one in the semifinal against the Dominican Republic. Roman looking like he's poised for a breakout year if he can stay healthy for Boston. Fernando Tatis Jr., Dominican Republic, second part of that outfield to be named to the All 2026 World Baseball Classic team. Hit 400, had a OPS over 1,200, a couple of home runs. Dante Nori, throw him right in there, man. Phil's call him up. 400 average, 2 home runs, almost 1,200 OPS. Ohtani was your DH, 462, 3 home runs, 1,800 OPS. My goodness, he just always does these things. And your 3 pitchers were Paul Skeens, Aaron Nola, and Logan Webb, who all had minuscule ERAs just over 1, and Aaron Nola had an ERA exactly 1. That's what we like to see as Philadelphia Phillies fans. So that was the All World Baseball Classic team. All right. Pretty much the last thing I want to talk about is like, what does this mean for for baseball going forward? And like, do you want to just keep the WBC, or do you want it to be the Olympics still? If you thought that way, I'm curious. I did a Twitter poll on this at the shift underscore media on Twitter. Should baseball stick with the WBC or go to the Olympics? Two answers: WBC or Olympics. What are you doing going forward? And man, I think I've had a change of heart, man. I think I wanted it to go to the Olympics. Dude, I think I like the momentum that they has going with the WBC. And my whole thing too is like, I don't think the players are going to want to do it in the Olympics because you're going to have to take that 2-week stretch out at the All-Star break. I don't think players are going to want to do it then. And so I'm just thinking that I think it's, I don't think players are going to want to do it then. And I kind of like, now people were trying to, I think we're like before the tournament, I had seen, I remember one comment on Twitter where I read that someone said that, well, the WC is like the World Cup. That was in soccer. And I'm like, all right, hold up. Let's not make that comparison because the World Cup is the biggest tournament in the world, arguably. Maybe not arguably. It might be, it's the biggest tournament in the world, is it not? Biggest tournament in the world. WBC is not on that level. Like, soccer is the most popular sport in the world, biggest tournament in the world. It's huge. Are you kidding me? So we're not going there. But I'll say this. I'm not saying the WBC is anywhere near the World Cup. I like with the WBC, the momentum it's gaining here. And also, like, the timing of it, I think it's probably better for what MLB players want. I don't think players are going to want to, after a 162 game season, I don't think they're going to want to have to get out of their routine to go play in the Olympics. And then what about the players that don't play in the Olympics? I mean, maybe they'll want the break. I don't know. Maybe that's not going to be great for MLB players. I don't know. I still think they're not going to want to do that. And then the WBC is kind of a perfect time, honestly, where they're doing it in spring training. They're ramping up for the season anyway, so that I guess that's why it's convenient for these players to do it then. So I think the timing thing, and like, again, I don't know. I think the WBC has some momentum. Like, I talked about it. They talked about it on First Take. They're talking about it on FS1. That doesn't mean that baseball's automatically like as popular as it once was in like the late 90s, early 2000s. That's not what I'm saying. But I think there's some momentum here between the last couple of years. I think it's grown into popularity between the pitch clock, helping out, and guys like Ohtani and Judge helping the sport grow, and now the WBC. I think there is some momentum here with the WBC. I think, I'm not saying everyone was locked in on it. I'm not saying this is bigger than even basketball right now, and not in the same stratosphere as football. But again, like, people are talking about it, and again, had a good tournament. But sometimes those are the things that have to happen. Like the Four Nations with hockey last year, like, had to have a big tournament, and they did, and it was really helpful for hockey. People were talking about that. The Kachuk brothers getting into those fights early on, like it helped, and it helped that also that the games were really good between the U.S. and Canada, and that you got U.S. and Canada there in the final. But I think this is good. I think this is good, man. I think I like the WBC, and I want it to continue to be the WBC going forward. And I know maybe it's really enticing with the Olympics in LA in 2028, but I like the WBC kind of, things have to grow. I mean, I'm sure the World Cup had to grow, right? Maybe it didn't. Maybe it just was like that from the start, but sometimes things have to grow. That's fine. I mean, the WBC, I don't think probably anyone knew what it was when it was, 2006, 2010. People I work with are talking about, dude, I thought it just started like, 2017 when the U.S. won. Like, no, it's been happening since 06. I'll be honest with you, when I was a baseball fan back then, like, in 06, I don't think I even remember it happening. So, like, things have to grow. That's growth, right? Going from the first time it happens, where I'm like, oh, one of my favorite players, Phillies, Chase Utley, was on the WBC team in 06. Like, I heard him, doing an interview where he talked about, he's like, yeah, I was on that team in 06. I'm like, I didn't even know. So, that go from that to now, where like, this is probably this has been the most talked about baseball event in a while. I mean, some of these other things that have been talked about maybe have been negative, like Otani gambling thing. Yeah, I think the World Series is probably talked about a little bit. I think I'm talking about mainstream media. I'm talking about like the mainstream media. I'm not talking about just baseball. So I want to keep the WBC going forward. I actually don't think I care for it to be in the Olympics. Now, maybe if they did decide to get in the Olympics, maybe my mind would change once I would see that it's happening in the Olympics. I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe I care. Maybe I change my mind. But for right now, again, and maybe these are reactionary things in the moment, but that's kind of how things go. Sometimes it is what it is. I think right now as it stands, right after the tournament happens, and again, maybe it's just because it was a really good tournament and you're just kind of riding high off the vibes of the tournament. I think we should continue with the WBC. I like how it's its own thing, and I like the momentum it's going off of the last couple of times. Even 2023 was great too, the way it ends up with Japan and US and the great game they had in the final. So yeah. So I mean, I thought it was great, man. I thought it was great, and I'd like to continue the WBC. Also, well, so what does this mean for baseball? Like, and I was working with coworker last night, Tom Kelly at WIP, and if you're not, if you're watching or listening to the show, it's locally. WIP is there's sports radio in Philly down here, and Tom's take was that baseball right now is the most popular it's ever been. He's what, 30, into the late 30s. It's the most popular it's been. I think he said, I thought he said in his lifetime. I think he did say that, but I guess he said he vividly remembered the home run chase. So that's one thing. Is it, what do you think about the popularity of baseball? Because I was talking to my little brother about this, actually like an hour or two ago. And he said, like, nah, baseball isn't where basketball is. Even basketball has lost popularity in the last, like, I would say, like, since COVID. And basketball is still number two, and football is number one. I'd probably agree with that still. I mean, hockey is like a definite number four. Football is a definite number one. I don't know, though, man. Like, I think baseball is, here's my thing. I think baseball is still number three. I think we're just riding high off this WBC. I think this is my thing. And I've been thinking about this, especially watching like First Take this morning and FS1 a couple of days ago. We can really talk about baseball's popularity once I see, it doesn't have to be on a daily basis, on a slightly consistent basis on these like bigger talk shows that we see on TV. I would like to see if they're talking about this consistently a little more. It doesn't have to be even their opens of their shows. It can be like throughout their shows. That's when we could talk about the popularity really getting back into the midst of mainstream sports. Because still, to me, hockey and baseball and hockey are on the outside as far as mainstream. They're a major sport, but they're, as far as like, what's touching mainstream sports, it's football and it's basketball. Basketball has lost its luster a little bit, but basketball's still probably in there. Yeah, man. I don't know, but I'm curious to know from other people. Like, I think this is, at the end of the day, like, again, like I said this 5 minutes ago, I'm going to say it again. I think it's real. No, regardless, I think what can't be denied is that this tournament specifically, the one that happened, the WBC in 2026, was really good for baseball, and that it has helped grow a bit of the popularity for the sport. I think that's one thing that we can all agree on. That, again, you got First Takes and First Things First talking about it. I think, again, think it's good for baseball no matter what. And hopefully, and the last thing before I wrap this up, the last thing is, and this has also been talked about, baseball can't have a lockout, man. They cannot miss regular season games. They can't. After the momentum that has gained over the last couple of years, the popularity of the sport, it can't happen. I think we can. It's another thing we can all agree on. We can all agree that it cannot happen. It just cannot. So they have to do whatever it takes to say we're not about to kill this momentum. We're not about to do this. This could even be worse than like 94 on what that meant for baseball. And they're, thank goodness they had the home run chase to come back and save them for, gave them like a 5 to 10 year grace period, before it kind of lost its a little bit of its luster over the next 15 to 20 years. As far as, mainstream goes. So I'm talking about mainstream. Obviously, us baseball fans feel differently about it, but you get what I mean about the mainstream thing. But yeah, they cannot have a lockout. It's 1,000%. They have to figure it out. I don't know. They have to all put on their big boy pants on and say, like, we need to figure this out as best as we can. It's a business and be professional about it, but they need to figure it out because they need to figure it the heck out. So that's it. But that's going to do it for episode 111 of The Shift. Tell me everything you thought about today's show, the final, Venezuela beating USA, just how great this tournament was, what it means for baseball. Do you want WBC? Do you want the Olympics? Just everything you thought about the tournament overall. I mean, this, at the end of the day, is a happy thing, but can't think, it's in the back of my mind, the whole thing about the lockout. That's the one thing that I am thinking about. So that will do it for me, Francisco Rojas, another episode of The Shift. I'll be back soon for The Shift. Talk to you guys soon.